I just spent $50,000 to buy a dirty, moth-eaten red scarf from a homeless man. My wife thinks I've had a mental breakdown, but she doesn't realize that this piece of trash is the only reason I'm still alive to sign her credit card bills. I was sitting in the back of my chauffeured car, complaining into my phone about a 2% drop in quarterly profits. I was the typical self-made millionaire, arrogant, cold, and convinced I owed the world nothing. The car stopped at a light in the part of the city I usually avoid. That's when I saw him. He was sitting on a crate, shivering in the November sleet. He wasn't holding a cup for change. He was just staring at his hands. But wrapped around his neck was a red scarf. It was faded, almost pink now, with a very specific amateurish V-stitch near the edge. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I couldn't breathe. 30 years ago, my mother sat in a hospital bed, her hands shaking from chemo, and knitted that exact scarf for my 16th birthday. It was the last thing she ever gave me before the state took our house and I ended up on the streets. I lost that scarf in a bus station brawl in 1994, and I thought the memory of it had died with her. I stood over him, shadows blocking the streetlights. "Where did you get that scarf?" I demanded. My voice was harsher than I intended. The old man looked up. His eyes were milky with cataracts, but there was a spark of something familiar. He didn't look afraid. He looked relieved. "It took you long enough, Elias," he whispered. I froze. No one in this city calls me Elias. I'm Mr. Thorne, or CEO. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "My name is Arthur. In '94, I was the night janitor at the Greyhound station. You were a scrawny kid sleeping behind the vending machines. You were shivering so hard I thought your bones would snap. I found you passed out, blue in the face. I wrapped my own coat around you, but you kept crying out for your mother. So I took this red scarf you were clutching and tied it tight around you. I sat with you all night so the older junkies wouldn't roll you." The memories hit me like a physical blow. I remembered a man's voice telling me, "Don't go to sleep yet, son. The sun is coming. Just hold on." I reached out and touched the wool. It was damp and smelled of wood smoke. "You kept it? For 30 years? Arthur laughed, a wet, rattling sound. "I didn't keep it, Elias. I tracked you. I saw your face in the business journals 10 years ago. I knew you'd made it. I kept the scarf as a reminder that even the coldest nights end. But life has a way of catching up." He explained that he had lost his pension when the city's cleaning contract was privatized. He had no family. He had been living in a shelter until he got sick. He chose this specific corner because he knew my office was 3 blocks away. He had been sitting there every evening for a month, hoping I'd look out the window of my fancy car. "I didn't want to beg," Arthur said, clutching the scarf. "I just wanted to give this back to you before I went to see my own mother. I figured you might need it again. You look successful, Elias, but your eyes, they look colder than they did when you were 16. I looked at my reflection in the window of my luxury car. He was right. I had replaced my soul with a spreadsheet. I had become the kind of man who would have walked past Arthur without a second glance if it weren't for that red scarf. I didn't just buy the scarf. I bought Arthur a life. I took him to the best hospital in the state. I paid for his treatment, his housing, and a nurse to sit with him so he'd never be alone again. My board of directors called me erratic. My wife called me obsessed. I called it settling a debt with interest. Arthur lived for 6 more months. In those months, I spent more time in a hospital room than in my boardroom. He taught me more about profit than any MBA ever could. He told me that a man's wealth isn't measured by what he keeps, but by what he's willing to give away when he has nothing left. When he passed away, he left a note in the pocket of that red scarf. It said, "The world is only as cold as we let it be. Keep the scarf, Elias. You're the janitor now." Today, I'm the head of a foundation that builds heated shelters in bus stations across the country. I still wear the suit, but I keep that moth-eaten red scarf in my desk drawer. It reminds me of the truth in Hebrews 13:2, NJV. "Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing, some have unwittingly entertained angels." I'm Elias Thorne. I was a millionaire who had nothing. Now, I'm just a man who knows the value of a piece of wool and